Hi there and welcome to my kitchen. I'm Jennifer and this is A Country Life, and today what I'm going to do is show you guys an entire meal from start to finish. It is a Sunday. It is just a gorgeous, gorgeous day outside. It's like 70 degrees right on the dot, and we've just been spending a lot of time outside. Besides the temperature being perfect and the sunshine being perfect, there are some other things that just made today a glorious, glorious day. It was the first day that we were back at Mass today, and that was, it was just lovely to be back at Mass, to receive the Eucharist today. Yeah. It was fabulous. Also, I got outside. I planted my tiered planter. You may remember, if you've been here before, you may remember that, gosh, it must have been 2 months ago already. I was sent a green stalk, I think that's what it's called, green stalk tiered planter. So I've been planting seeds, and I have just all kinds of things growing in the house right now. I got some of those out there and I planted my planter. I thought maybe I was going to do flowers in that because I do have like a mini planter that I got at a garage sale years ago, and I've always just done flowers in there. But this year, looking at like the diagrams and stuff like that in the instruction booklet, I was like, I'm going to do plants, I'm gonna grow food. So in the bottom tier I have broccoli, in the second tier up I have pickling cucumbers, then I planted some white radishes, and then some mixed greens. So I have no idea if those all go well together. I didn't do any research beforehand or anything. I just planted everything in there, and we're gonna see what happens as the summer goes on. So let's get right to this though. Today, it is May 31st. We are like in the middle of rhubarb season right now. My rhubarb plants were enormous. Warren was just out with the kids, and while I was planting at my planter, and he pulled all this rhubarb. Him and Peter cut off all the leaves. Tonight's supper is going to include grilled chicken leg quarters with a delicious sweet and savory rub. We'll have that with a side of oven-baked cheesy hash browns, some steamed broccoli, as well as top it off with rhubarb crisp with a little dollop of Cool Whip on top. To get started, I'm going to slice up here 6 cups of rhubarb. Much better. I thought the serrated tomato knife was going to work nice, but nope. My little kind of like paring knife works much better. We're doing the dessert first because I want to get this into the oven. It has to be in the oven for at least 40 minutes. It might even go upwards of an hour because I'm doubling the recipe for our family. I should write it on here. I've made this many times. I have written yummy, slightly tart, but I have not changed the time. So maybe that means that I don't need to go keep it in there longer. I just don't remember. So I want to get this in right away. On top of the rhubarb, I'm going to put in 3/4 cup of sugar. You can go up to a cup. We do tend to like things a little bit on the tart side. I'm going to do 2 tablespoons of flour. I'm going to do 2 teaspoons, this is a 2 teaspoon measuring spoon here, of ground cinnamon, and then a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. My measuring bowl is slightly small here, but I'm just going to mix this around. Try not to make a mess. Eat one. Oh my gosh, that's so good. Sometimes I get frustrated when I bake because, especially when I don't follow my own rule, which is to clean up the kitchen before I get started. On the counter over here, I have clutter, and over there I have dirty dishes. So that means that my glass 9x13 is dirty, and I really don't want to take the time right now to wash it, but that would be my preferred baking dish, would be a glass 9x13 baking dish. Now, if you have a smaller family, or you just want to try this out for the first time without making such a great big amount, you can do this in an 8x8 square pan, or even a pie plate works well. and you'd only want to use half of all of the ingredients. Okay, I'm going to set this aside and make the topping. I'm going to make the topping right here in this dip bowl. I also preheated my oven to 350 degrees. For the topping, I'm going to do 2/3 cup of flour plus a tablespoon. I'm going to do 3/4 of a cup of packed brown sugar. Now again, you can do a whole cup if you'd like. And then I'm going to do a whole cup of oatmeal. This is my 3/4 cup, so I'm just going to heap it on there really well and call that a cup. Now I'm going to hope that when I open up these 2 butter dishes, I have enough butter, which is going to be a total of 12 tablespoons. Great. Ooh, I'm close. I have about 10. I just kind of stir up the dry ingredients in here and then start cutting in my butter. It works best, I like to kind of fork it into tablespoons. I currently don't have a pastry blender. I'm going to angle this up at me now, okay? While I talk to you. So I currently don't have a pastry blender, but Christine from Frugal Fit Mom, she did like a video a little while ago. I don't know if it was 20 or 25 items that were under $20 or $25 or something like that from Amazon that she really likes, like kitchen gadget type things. And she had, or she showed a pastry blender. So I'm going to look into that one. I've had 2 in my lifetime. Oh, my butter is warmed up. I've had 2 pastry blenders. One was plastic. I believe it was actual Tupperware brand from like the 70s or something. And it just didn't work real well. I didn't like the blades. They seemed to want to like give, and I never felt like I could really bear down on it. So I got rid of that one so long ago. And then I had another one, but every time you bear down on it, the handle was so sharp in one spot, like where the edges of the handle were, it always felt like it was cutting into my hand. And again, you didn't feel like you could really bear down on it and really blend. So I got rid of that one. And then a lot of times I'll use my food processor. But when I have oatmeal and I don't want the oatmeal to turn into crumbs, then I don't use that. I just use a fork. Like I say to my kids, I say, just stir in a little love. Whenever you're making something for your family, you got to make sure that one stir is at least some love. And that goes a long way to making good food. This is just what I want it to look like. Looks kind of like big chunks. Push my stuff out of the way. And then we'll just pour this right over. Get all of that out. I want that too. And I'm just going to push this. And if there's any little bit bigger clumps of butter, I'll just kind of break those apart too. Although that's the part that tastes so good. When that butter kind of seeps down into the fruit. I don't know. When you guys make fruit pies, do you always put a few tablespoons of butter on top of the fruit before you put the top crust on? I'm not really sure if recipes call for that because I don't usually follow a recipe when I'm making like a 2-crust fruit pie. But yeah, I remember my grandma always putting butter on top of apple pies before she put the top crust on. So, okay. That was perfect timing. Did you hear that? I mean, that was my oven preheating 350 degrees. I'm going to put this in for 40 minutes. I'll check it. Really, all I'm looking for is for this to be all bubbly. It might even kind of have, what's a good word? Congealed? Is that a good word? It may even congeal a little bit around the edge. The sugar and the fruit juice, and the top should be nice and kind of toasty tan. So let's get this in. Okay, I'm going to take a second, get this stuff cleaned up, and then I'm going to make the rub for the chicken thighs. I'm also going to fill up both of my butter dishes because there's nothing worse than when someone empties the butter dish, puts the lid back on, puts it back in its spot. You go to want to butter your toast in the morning, and you lift off the lid, empty. Okay, so this rub is very, very easy. It is a 1/2 cup of brown sugar. This really, really caramelizes nicely onto the chicken skin. It's going to be 1/4 cup of chili powder. Now, if you can find something that's called dark chili powder, that's actually what the recipe calls for. I don't know if I've ever actually looked or seen dark chili powder. Okay, there's 1/4 cup of that. 1/4 cup of kosher salt, which seems like a lot, but don't worry. Some of it falls off during the grilling, and it's oh, what is the word that I'm looking for here? It's balanced very well by the brown sugar. 2 tablespoons of black pepper. This is so good. Oh my gosh. All right, I'm going to put all this away, set this aside. This is going to be the spot to make the cheesy potatoes next. I know I've shown this recipe on my channel before a couple times, and by the time you see this video, I will have already put up a video where Emily and I spent a good portion of an entire day in the kitchen putting together, I think, if I'm not mistaken, we put together 13 meals for her to put into the freezer so that when she has that baby, she has some food that she can cook quickly, or that Sparky can cook up quickly too. Oh, and by the way, on the filming day of this, she is only 10 days out from her due date. So good, exciting times coming. So for cheesy potatoes, I'm going to start with a teaspoon of salt. And then I do need a 1/2 cup of chopped onion. A lot of times what I'll do to try to have onion on hand is to chop up an extra when I am cooking, especially if it's a time when I have, you know, a day when I have a little extra time, or if I'm doing like a Sunday prep or a large prep, I'll always include cutting up an onion in that so that I have an onion or two in the fridge ready to go, because diced onion keeps really well in the fridge for a full week. This is not my favorite knife for doing onions, but I just don't feel like getting another knife dirty right now. This blade is just a little too short for my liking for doing onions, but I will put a link in the description box below for you guys to head over to Amazon to the Rada Cutlery page and just look at all the things that they have. I love every single item that I've purchased from them has been excellent. I usually pick up the Rada Cutlery at Amish or Mennonite stores. I have this. This was a gift from Warren years ago, I believe, for my birthday. And this knife goes right here, and there's one with a longer blade, and there's that tomato slicing knife, which is the one I tried to use for the rhubarb, but didn't like that so well for that. But yeah, okay, so that's a 1/2 cup of onion. That's probably more than a 1/2 cup. That's okay. I like onion a lot. Oh, back to the Rada Cutlery. So also, I always think of things I want to tell you guys. The Rada Cutlery, they also make a peeler, a vegetable peeler. I love that. It just seems like it never ever goes dull. And then my other favorite things are these little like dessert scoops. We use these for flipping our eggs in the morning. I also serve desserts with these. They're awesome. I also have this right here, like this one. It has a little bit of a short handle. I typically seem to use this for, like, if we make extra large cookies, or depending on what I make my pancakes on, sometimes I'll use it for that. I don't use this one quite as much as I use everything else. The whisk, really like the whisk. Technically I need an entire carton, which is 16 ounces. I don't have an entire carton. I'm good with that though. This will be fine. Teaspoon of pepper. 1 can cream of chicken soup. This is a 1/2 cup or a whole stick of melted butter. And then I also need 2 cups of shredded cheese. I have some here. And since I only need 1 1/2 more cups of shredded cheese, I'm not going to pull out my food processor And besides, Maria's not in here. She's down swimming. So she's always the one that loves to shred the cheese on there. So I'm just going to use this real quick. All right, and that looks like about 2 cups of cheese to me. So I'm going to just stir all of this to combine it. And then I need a 2-pound bag of hash browns, which I have right there. Next up, for the topping for the potatoes, I want to put on about 2 cups of crushed cornflakes that have been sort of mixed around with 1/4 of a cup or a 1/4 cup or a 1/2 stick of butter melted. If you happen to not like cornflakes or you don't have cornflakes around, you could always use potato chips. That works great, just crush them. And if you do like a flavored potato chip, that I think would taste good. I've never done that. I'm gonna keep that uncovered when I put it into the oven. That's gonna go, same thing, 350 degrees for 45 minutes. Dun, 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 dun. Yes. For 45 minutes. So the rhubarb has just 13 minutes left. So what I'm going to do now is wash up my chicken. Actually, I'm going to clean up this mess here. And then I'm going to wash up the chicken, pat that dry, and get the seasoning onto that so that we can get that on the grill. Because we do want to eat a little bit on the earlier side tonight. Okay, that timer is for the Rhubarb Crisp. So let's take a look at that. Okay, I think I'm gonna go with that being done. The bubbling around the edges is kind of jam-like and thick. The top looks nice and golden brown. That's it, it's done. That means I'm gonna go straight in with the potatoes. And now I'm just working on pressing in the seasoning, this rub. If you can rub some of it kind of down in the skin, kind of get under some skin, that's great. Now I am going to fill up a water bottle when I start grilling, because I'm thinking that this is maybe going to flame up a little bit. I know it's going to flame up a little bit. Once the fats start melting underneath the skin, it does start to flame a little, and I don't really like that. I'm going to flip these all over. Now for the rub, if you're not going to make as much chicken as I am, I would not make a whole batch of this. Well, I guess you could still make a whole batch and keep it, but I would not reach my hand back into the bowl. I would just kind of like pour onto the chicken what you think you're going to need, and you know, so you're not contaminating it. But this is 7 chicken leg quarters, which is a lot, and I'd have to look at the packages to see how much this all weighs. But now some of this I'm going to reach underneath the skin here. Anywhere I can get underneath the skin, I'm going to. Okay, so I put the chicken on to grill, and I was trying to maintain a temperature of around 375 to 400 degrees to grill, and I was watching a YouTube video and I look over, I'm like, okay, it looks like the needle has dropped. Uh-oh, he just hit his head. Sorry about that. Yeah, so I look over, the needle was completely straight down, and I was like, okay, I think we just ran out of fuel. But he rescued me. So I'll give you an update here. When I first put the chicken on the grill, I put it with the skin side down, and then I kept it on a pretty good heat for about 15 minutes. You know, with the brown sugar in here, it does really caramelize, like this one over here where it's really, really hot, got a little bit dark. I'm sorry for the shadows, it's just that time of day. So, so yeah, then I flipped it over, and now what I want to do is maintain this.
What?
Kids are talking on either side of me right now, but what I'd like to do is maintain this at about 375 degrees if I could now, and then just, you know, just keep cooking it away until it comes up to temperature. So on my grill, I actually have these two all the way to low, 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 and then this one to just a little above low. And hopefully, right now it's only reading not even 200, but I'm going to give it a little time and it should get nice and hot in there again. The potatoes are all done. I am just going to keep them in here to keep them hot though. I have it turned off so they won't brown anymore. But since the grill ran out of fuel, you know, things are just not going exactly as I had hoped, but this is looking delish. I just served these up, and Warren thought that this was for right now. He thought he was going to eat it before supper. I had to put a kibosh on that. But anyway, let me just show you guys. This took a full hour, if not actually a little bit. No, it's 5:11, so this took a full hour to get completely done. I have 3 more out there that need to, you know, finish up. But anyway, the juices are running clear. We have the potatoes all done, and here's the vegetables, and then we have the rhubarb crisp. Joe, I don't think he's going to want any. He might want a little dish of Cool Whip though. We'll have to ask him about that. But that is going to be everything here for Sunday night supper.